All right, welcome everybody. How's everybody enjoying the conference so far? Awesome. Well, thank you for coming. So, as someone who has grown up in the body of Christ, I have watched the role of executive pastor morph a little bit over the years, but mostly in title. I feel like 30 years ago, we just called it the head secretary. And then somewhere in there, we said executive administrator. And now executive pastor is more and more common as the job title. And I think what that really represents is an acknowledgement of just how key an operations lead is. I don't think you find a successful spirit-filled ministry, spirit-empowered ministry, any kind of fruitful ministry that doesn't have some sort of crack admin team in the background making stuff happen. And in a lot of ministries, especially really popular platform ones where maybe the head person is a celebrity and super outgoing and they look like this crazy force of nature, I guarantee you, in the back end, there's a whole bunch of semi-anonymous, extremely competent administrators making stuff happen. So who here is representing a local church? Awesome. Who is here on like independent ministry, maybe missions or a nonprofit? Okay, great. So a mixture of both. I think the principles apply, but this panel in particular, we're going to be talking mostly about things in the local church, but please ask questions, whatever's applicable to your ministry, right? Right here, I have three friends of mine who are all exceptional at their jobs of supporting their senior leadership team, holding up the arms of the pastors so that they can do the work of the ministry and running very complicated organizations and staff. So I want to introduce them one at a time. Can we start off? Can you tell us your name and the ministry you're part of, and then just some ballpark facts about the ministry, like say number of employees. Start right here. Catherine Davis.
Catherine Davis, Living Faith Fellowship. I am
Where are you from? Where's Living Faith Fellowship?
Pullman, Washington.
All right.
So we're on the border. We're on the border of Washington and Idaho. So we live right there on the kitty corner from Seattle, if you will.
And ballpark, how many people attending the church?
We have about 600 attending 650 on an average Sunday, and we have 40 employees, 20 10-month staff, and 15 10-month employees with our K through 12 private school.
Fantastic. And just ballpark, what kind of organization-wide budget are we talking about?
Gosh, I'm not a part of the finance team, so I can't speak to that,
no problem.
but it is large.
Okay, all right. Gage, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Gage. I just started full-time serving in the executive pastoral at Bethel Church. It's out of Goldsboro. Pastor Steve Holder's church. I work with him every day. Love the man. He's awesome. We average about $750, $800 on a Sunday, and our annual budget right now is about $1.3 million a year.
Hey, in the back, we've got room up front. We got some seats over here. Come on in and
come
let's
join
see if
us.
we can close that door. All right, Jennifer.
Jennifer Schmidt. I'm Christian Life Church and College, Mount Prospect, Illinois. Pastor Daryl Merrill is my lead pastor. We are on the smaller end of this panel. We have about 300, I would say, as regular attenders at our church. However, one thing that I think is unique to me that I don't think is unique for them, they have a school as well. I think Catherine should mention the school too. We have a Bible college, two separate organizations in our building. However, we share a lot of the same staff. So I have a dual role, as does Pastor Darrow, serving as president of the college and the church. Plus, we rent out our facility to multiple other organizations, including a Korean church that's been with us since 2008. Called Church of Bethlehem. We have a Montessori daycare that we rent space to. We have a Bulgarian language school that we rent space to. So that's all something that is under my purview in addition to managing the staff, and I do the finances. So we'll get into a lot, but executive pastor roles vary widely based on what the needs of the church is and the staff makeup and the size. And so I think all of our roles vary widely. Our church operational budget ranges from $900,000 to $1.1 million, which I'm shocked because our congregation is smaller than yours, and budget-wise, it's not that much different. And the college separately is about a $300,000 to $400,000 annual budget. So.
And I'm sure if we went around this room, we would find just as much diversity in operations. The purpose of this is not to say we found the three people who have all the answers. It's really because in this fellowship, we have an opportunity to learn so much from each other. And so in sessions like this, we can get to know other professionals. Hopefully you can feel a little bit more normal as a result of this time. And then let's keep conversations going. You can know who you can talk to for specific questions. And so I want to hear from you guys. How did you rise through the ranks to get your current role? What was your career path?
My career path was I graduated from high school. I worked a year at the University of Idaho in the chemistry department, which I had no business working in the chemistry department, but I did for a year. And then I was asked to be Pastor Phil's secretary when he was the campus pastor. So he was our campus pastor for our CCF, our young college age group. And then by the time I started is when the transition had started to when he was going to become the senior pastor. So I have been his secretary for 25 years now.
Now, at some point, you went from being secretary, large desk with a bunch of papers, to being in charge of all the desks and all the papers.
Yes.
How did that progression happen?
Over time, and it was learning. It was my pastors seeing and believing in me and developing me. And so as the need rose and the role rose, the need, that's when I stepped into it and just under their direction and guidance and under a lot of finding out what their heart is for our staff, for our church, being their hands extended and to accomplish that.
Awesome. Gage, how about you?
Yeah, I started out at Bethel in 2020 as the technical director, so audio, video, and lighting. And just over the years that followed that, it became a real need to just have someone on the administration end to do that. And we tried a couple of different things and just didn't really work the best. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so that was in 2025 that started. So and so July marks a year since I've fully stepped into the whole role now. So I'm 1 year into it, and it's going well. I enjoy it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Jennifer, how about you?
So I work at the church that I grew up attending. So I've been there my whole life. My dad had been associate pastor when I was growing up. And so I'm a ministry kid, like a lot of the kids that are here. And traditionally in churches, a lot of times women serve with children, music department. Those are not my giftings. I was never interested in those areas. And so I did go to I hear my mom laughing. That's great. I did go to our Bible college. So I graduated from Christian Life College with a degree in ministerial studies, but I worked at Hyatt for 11 years. So I started in high school. I was more interested in the business world. And through my 20s, I worked for Hyatt in a variety of capacities, and I thought I'd be a lifer in that capacity. Pastor Daryl approached me in 2013 or 2012. So Pastor Daryl, his father, Pastor Merrill Sr., he was a very gifted administrator and shepherd. And so he did really dual roles as the founder of the church. Pastor Daryl does not have that same gifting as his father, and he's aware of that. And so he was looking to bring on someone to complement his gifting. So he approached me about coming to work at the church and laid out, at that time I was not executive pastor, it was, he said, I want someone to run the church, the operations, the finance, the day-to-day. And everything that he described, I was like, yep, I can do that. And it was so exciting to think of a ministry job that I could do that wasn't, and I'm not, no disrespect to kids or worship, that just wasn't for me. And so left my Hyatt career, started at the church with a title of executive assistant. And I did bristle at that at the beginning, I will say, because I left a managerial role at Hyatt, but I also don't want to be someone that cares about titles. And so I think a lot of times, I'm going to speak as a woman, there's a lot of women in church that are serving in roles that if it was a man, they might have a different title.
Sure.
And I don't want to speak out of turn, but that's been my experience. We did have a senior associate pastor when I came on staff, and so he was with us, you know him, Pastor Fred Job, till 2018. When he left, Pastor Darrell and I had conversations about changing my title and the things I was already doing, and kind of just recognizing that as our staff became more and more junior and younger, and just the need to have authority by title. And so, yeah, we had open conversations, and it's been a really positive experience. So I'm happy to be able to use my gifts, and I'm sorry I'm talking so much.
No, you brought up something that I really want to drill down on. You mentioned complementary skill sets, right? So it's pretty common to have a ministry, or honestly any organization, small business, whatever, where the skill sets of the person at the top becomes the identity of the ministry, right? So if this is a ministry that's really into, the senior leader is really into sports, well then the whole ministry is into sports, or whatever it is. Or if you're really into administration, really into detail oriented, But I think there's a real power in intentionally surrounding yourself with people that aren't like you, with those complementary skill sets. So I want to hear from the rest of the panel. What are some examples where you've been able to fill in, maybe not blind spots, but areas where your senior leader isn't the strongest, and it's been a positive thing, something that's allowed the ministry to go forward?
So when I started working for Pastor Phil, we do personality testing and stuff at our church, and I was the exact opposite of him. So I've been able to. He has a lot of vision, and he puts things out, and so. But my job is, once he puts that vision out, to put feet to it and to make that vision become a reality. Now, that doesn't mean I do all the pieces or I do all of that, but I then go to the staff, the team, and go, how are we going to make this happen? And so, or we have staff pastors and go, okay, Pastor Dan, how are you going to, as small groups, how does that play out into this? And so my job is to really put feet to that. And so when he says something, it then becomes reality, and we can put feet to it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I would say probably the biggest thing that I've learned over the past year when it comes to that is recognizing what your church actually needs in that season. And just because someone's available, it doesn't mean that they need to be the one that feels that need. Find the person that has the gift set that you're looking for. Like, I felt so often we have people that are willing and they're there, and we just said, all right, this is what we need done, so you can do this. But it really damages your team more than it's going to help the church in the long run. So if you have people on your team right now and they're not in the right seat on the bus, I would start having that conversation next week. All right, what is your gift set? Where are you going to bring the most value to the team? And even if you have to spend an extra $20,000 a year to do it, do it. It's going to bring way more value.
Anything you want to chime in there?
About what was the...
I don't remember. I
Well,
just kind of
actually,
went off of her.
I'll segue a little bit, because you're both talking about people finding the right role.
Yeah.
What has been your ministry's approach to the hiring process? And how has it maybe evolved during your tenure? What lessons have you learned along the way?
We recently, we had someone step down in their role because they became a mom, and so they decided to stay home. And so that role was vacant for more than I would have been comfortable with. So we did hire someone, and it was kind of like, well, let's see how they fit. They were willing, they were available. And so we did a trial period, and it really, within like 3 to 4 months, it was pretty clear it wasn't a good fit. And it was hard. It was hard for me to pinpoint why it wasn't a good fit. And so we released them, and but then we have recently then hired someone else, and the difference between going, okay, that person's the right fit, was so drastic. I hadn't seen it like that before. And
Explain
so
what you mean by fit, because sometimes there's always difficulty and friction in
Yes.
exiting a job,
yes.
regardless of who initiates it.
And it's very challenging in a church because they're probably still a member of your church. And so how do you do that still lovingly and wanting them to be an active part of the church? And so realizing we're in this for the benefit of the church to build his kingdom. And if it's not a win for you, it's not a win for us, and it's not a win for the kingdom. And so not as a you failed, it's this isn't a good fit, and there's a better fit for you. Where can we find that better fit? And so the feeling, culture is really important to pastors Phil and Carrie, and the camaraderie that we have. And when you feel like you're walking on eggshells in how you speak and how you approach, if you have to give someone feedback and you don't feel like you can, and you have to really be careful about how you approach them, not that you want to come at them like yelling or angry or anything like that, but if you have to feel like you have to dance around a topic, then that's probably a really good sign that it's not a good fit. Or you need to have an open conversation and go, is this working for you? Are you excited to come to work in the morning? Because if you're not excited to come, then this isn't the right fit. And so.
Yeah, very good. Please share, either of you.
So we have a much smaller staff than they do at Living Faith. I think there's 4 full-time staff people at our church and maybe 4 part-time. And then at the college, we have 3 part-time and maybe 10 adjunct faculty. And we're just in such a different boat because we have the Bible college. A lot of our staff is homegrown because we have access to recent graduates that want to go into the ministry. And so in the 13 years I've been on staff at the church, we've had 1 firing and 2 retirements. And so we're replacing older generation people that had been on the staff for a long time with younger generation people. And the people that we're hiring are people that we're handpicking as someone that we knew from our college. So our culture is already kind of built in. That being said, that doesn't mean that those hires are perfect. And there's development that needs to happen, and sometimes an encouragement of maybe there's another path for you and how can we help you find that, more of like a pastoral coaching conversation than a firing, because we're teammates with them for the long term and we want to keep the relationship with them.
Yeah.
And then more recently, I would say post-COVID, we're really trying to implicate and put together like an internship program that leads to a residency program that leads to employment opportunities. So we had a couple residents that started in 2020, that one now is a full-time staff person, one was part-time, left to find another full-time job at another church. And so instead of hiring for a high position, we're trying to get the younger, like college-age generation in the team in an internship role, and then as needs arise, fill them into staff spots when they become available. That's what's been working for us. And cost-wise, it's very effective.
Gage, how about you? What's been your approach to hiring? And
Well, I'm 1 year into this, so I haven't had to fire anyone yet. So that's been nice. Pastor Blake Holder, who's leading worship this week, Pastor Steve's son, he just accepted a role at Seven Hills Church over there in Kentucky. So he just moved in the last month. So we haven't replaced or hired a new worship pastor at Bethel. We've got 2 contract workers that are kind of splitting the role from a music side and a worship leading side. So we're going to stick that out for a few months and see how that goes, and see if they want to continue doing that, or if the Lord just makes a way and says, hey, this is the person, and everyone sees it and it's natural, it's organic, then we'll move in that direction for that. I think probably just talking a little bit more about what you said, one of the biggest things that we've had to do as a staff in the past year is be brutally and intimately honest with one another when we're together. Because if we're not brutal with one another, and I say brutal and you might think that's just mean, it's not. Sometimes you have to have hard conversations and say things, or maybe you disagree. Like our youth pastor may disagree with a local outreach initiative that we're doing. Like, I want to hear it, but I don't want to hear it from a place of arrogance. I want to hear it from a place of love. And so when we're able to share it from I know when he talks and he says something, even if it's completely opposite of me, I know it's coming from a place, hey, you care about this, you love what we're doing, and you want to see the biggest impact made. So we'll ask each other that question. Are we being brutally and intimately honest with one another right now? And if you're not, you'll find yourself getting into a situation where it gets very dirty very quick, and you can't fix it. It's too late. So I would encourage you to have those honest conversations in your staff meetings with your staff, because it's very important.
I just want to mention, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I think, at least for me, I don't know the structure of how your team operates, but the communication between our roles and the senior pastor is the most important piece of communication that's possible, because again, Pastor Darrell and I are so different, And we think about almost every situation so differently. And there are many benefits to that, but there can be drawbacks to that too. Because if he's communicating something to the team and I'm communicating something differently about the same situation to the team, that can cause friction very quickly and between the two of us. And that's where you can't let that friction happen. You need to have those honest conversations, even with your senior leader, because you need to set a good example to the team. And so that's something that Pastor Darrell and we work on a lot. We meet weekly, one-on-one, and I'm a non-confrontational person, but I have grown in my ability to speak very directly because it's not out of ill will. It's out of just respect and the good of the staff and the congregation and the health and things like that. So
If I could delve into that a little bit more, I meant what I said earlier, that every successful ministry has this dynamic of an admin team that's different than the senior leader, but you work together in a way that, there might be friction, but there's grace and harmony. Can you share an example where maybe things didn't go perfectly in your communication, but you came out better on the other side when it came to working with your senior leader?
I mean, we have difficult communication, frequently, a few times a year. There are just things.
That means that God's doing stuff.
Yeah, and it's not bad. That's the thing. Like, confrontation is not bad. And it's not even confrontation. It's just direct communication. I don't know if I want to give like any specific examples, but again, I don't know, managing the teams and the delineation between us and how we manage each department. There is some overlap in Pastor Darrell and I where we'll meet, like I'll be meeting with our youth pastor, our kids pastor, our maintenance person, our worship person about whatever. And I'm more like task oriented, project oriented, checking in. How are things going? What do you need? Like yada yada. And Pastor Darrell is more like vision. It's like warm and fuzzy and vague. Like goals. And so
I think some people relate.
Yes.
Okay.
And so he'll have a meeting with them, and I'm like, I have no idea what they talked about, and I could have a totally different meeting with them, and it's like we're trying to communicate the same thing, but it's so different. And so then getting feedback from the employee that they're feeling like they're getting mixed signals about something, that is where I think the brunt of our direct communication comes into play. So I don't know if that answered anything. But
When I started, I was 18, so I was very young. If you look at my personalities and my strengths, I am harmony and a cooperative. So I want everybody to be happy. And working with Pastor Phil and Carrie, they have a very different dynamic, and they are not afraid to have hard discussions. And I remember, especially when I was young, I would be in tears a lot, but it was because I felt like I was causing the friction because I was supporting Pastor Phil in this way, and then Pastor Carrie had wanted something over here. Well, in the process, learning how they both communicate to each other was very helpful. Also, their commitment to not being at aught with each other, they are after the same thing. They speak differently, and so even though they're on the same team and moving the same direction, it was trying to figure out where both of them are coming from. And so learning how to not be afraid of the discussion and the friction and going, no, this is the betterment for our congregation, for our team, and being able to focus on that versus being scared of the conflict was huge for me in the growing process.
Anything you want to add?
I think I pretty much hit the nail on the head. We all did that.
Well, while we're still on the topic of human resources and people, I'm kind of curious, how do you balance, every church has volunteers, right? None of us are doing this for the money. How in the organizations that you oversee, how do you balance distributing that workload between paid staff and volunteers? Any tips for keeping toxicity out of the culture as we're all pulling the same direction for the kingdom?
I think for us, it's realizing what you're requiring of who. So I can't require of our volunteers more than I require of our staff. And I tell our staff, if ultimately we can't do it without our volunteers. That's bottom line. But if our volunteers weren't there, we still have a job to do. And so it's up to us to pick up where there are holes or where our volunteers can't do that and complete the mission. And so we there are a couple things that we have done from our founding pastors. Every Saturday we had what we called Saturday Cruise. And so the church would come out and we would do service together, and it put skin in the game for every member of our congregation. And so we continue to do that. It looks a little different now. We've divided up our congregation by last names. And so during the school year, every 8 weeks, your letter group is on to do for 2 hours on a Saturday to come in and do custodial things just to prep our sanctuary and our campus for the weekend services. And so we've done that. Now the staff, since COVID, because we couldn't have volunteers come in and do some of that, every Friday, the staff does all the cleaning of the bathrooms and facilities. And it's done amazing things in our staff to leave our respective departments, if you will, come together and do something that we actually have come to really enjoy doing it on Friday mornings. But then it releases them when they come on Saturday to do more than we could have done otherwise. It's also really important to keep your lines of communication open with our volunteers. Adam and I are on a team together, and we meet once a month. And when we first started that, it was a hard meeting to sit through.
We got through some stuff.
Yeah, we did. But it opened lines of communication that needed to happen. And there's a lot that if you're willing to listen to your volunteers and your volunteers are willing to listen to your staff, you learn a lot. They give a perspective that you, especially if it's not your area of expertise. My area of expertise is not video. But if you listen and are willing to learn from them, it gives you a perspective that you can then come and support them as volunteers and move the whole organization forward.
Staff versus volunteers, how do you guys manage that culture?
So at our church, I would say each staff or department head, any department head is going to be a paid staff person. I can't think of a department head that is a volunteer. So any staff person is really responsible for managing their own volunteer team and culture.
Do you have some staff members that oversee multiple departments?
Definitely, yeah. So our worship pastor is half worship pastor, half maintenance. Anyone at church is all like any staff. If you're getting a paycheck, it's all hands on deck whenever it needs to be.
Yeah.
And so like if I'll go on the roof, we'll clean a bathroom, we'll cut down trees, whatever has to happen. And I do the finances, so if it can save us money, great. But yeah, so our worship pastor is maintenance and tech and worship, and our kids pastor is kids, so birth through 18. So kids and youth. So weekend he's kids, Wednesdays he's youth. And then we have actually a large outreach ministry, outreach in the sense of community help. It's called the Kids Pantry. And that is not run technically by a staff person. It's a 1099 contractor. And that team of volunteers under her is massive. And those volunteers don't attend our church. Majority of them are community people, and not all of them are Christians. And so that is a massive operation every week. And I would say that I know most of the volunteers, but I am not managing the volunteers for each of the departments. I'm managing their leaders, and I'm helping them manage their volunteers. And I know them and I'm present, but I can't manage 200 volunteers. That's why we have the department heads. And you know, we just want to treat people good because they're serving. And so I really try to empower our leaders, our department heads, to treat their volunteers well. Mm-hmm. So what can we do? Gift cards? Can we do a team lunch? Are we writing thank you cards? Are we calling people? Are we checking in? I know it's not an unlimited budget, and also not scheduling people more than they want to be scheduled, being respectful of whatever boundaries the volunteers are putting into place. Yeah. And so I'm trying to help them manage those things and empower them, like, hey, if we want to do a lunch for our group, great. Like, whatever they want to do, I want to support it, unless it's totally crazy. Like, no one's going to go out for a steak dinner, but whatever we can do to make people feel seen and appreciated and respect that volunteer's boundaries, we need to do that. Yeah. So hope that helps.
I like how you brought up the honoring of the volunteers, right? We all could use some affirmation now and again. Gage, anything you want to add on the staff versus volunteer thing?
Yeah, for me, it comes down to how much time is what the person is doing. What does it require? Is it 5 hours a week? Okay, then probably can volunteer doing that. What's the skill level required with it? So I think both of those go hand in hand. If we're going to ask 15 to 20 hours for someone, they're probably going to have to be a contract worker at that point because they can't do a full-time job. They can't do their family. They can't be a part of a small group, and they can't serve 20 hours a week. It's just not physically possible unless you're Superman.
So I have unique situations sometimes because we get a lot of community service. Do you guys do community service? Like,
We have not been successful in that. So
well, we get sent people. So again, kids that are getting in trouble in the neighborhood, whatever. We do so many community service hours. People that got DUIs, again, through our food pantry and our kids pantry, we get so many people that need community service hours. So those people sometimes are volunteering 40 hours a week, and I'm not kidding, but they have to. And then we had a guy that goes to our church. He's a kids volunteer, but he lost his job, and in order to maintain his food benefits with the state on unemployment status, he was required to volunteer 20 hours per week. And so very random occasions, we do get volunteers that will not be paid but do volunteer.
There are those people, like my mom is an example. She probably serves 15 to 20 hours a week, and she doesn't get paid a dime. But I tell you what, someone does write her a hand written card, monthly or whatever the event is. Or if we have 2 major events and she's catering for all of them, and she does 30 hours in a week. You just have those special people that come in. So I think it just depends on the person, the task, and the time, and the skill needed.
I want to leave a significant amount of time for question and answers because this is a great group right here. But so my last question will be, what are some examples of systems that you've gotten to implement or put in place, especially in a spirit-filled environment? Sometimes there can be cultural resistance to systems, right? But we all know that without systems, nothing gets done, right? So what are some examples of systems you've been able to implement that have helped the ministry move forward?
It's pretty basic. We don't do anything super special. We use Planning Center. I'm sure majority of you do. We switched our database to Planning Center a number of years ago. We used to be Church Community Builder. Our giving platform is through Planning Center check-in. So how many people use Planning Center in the room? Probably a lot. So that's been nice to have everything on one platform. Internally, I'm so not fancy in the sense of using programs to administrate. I love writing things down with my hand and a pen and a paper. And so to me, it's internal communication. I know people hate meetings, but internal touch points, face-to-face meetings, things like that helps our team function as systems better than software does. I'm going to be honest.
Honestly, just putting recurring meetings on the calendar and being that accountability to your leadership team, saying, no, we're gonna have our face-to-face, we're gonna do a staff meeting. That is a system.
Okay, so we do a monthly staff meeting with our whole team. I do a weekly check-in with Pastor Daryl between him and I. And then I do a weekly check-in with the people that I'm managing on our team. So that's the worship pastor, the kids pantry person, our finance assistant. We have the janitor, not really. So that's a weekly meeting. And then weekly as our staff team, we do prayer. So we call it a stand-up meeting because if you sit down, the meeting goes too long. And so every Wednesday we meet for a 15-minute stand-up just to go over quick things that need to be communicated with each other for the week and have a time of prayer for our congregation and the requests that have been sent in. So that works for us. And then program-wise, we predominantly are Planning Center based. So
When going back to this idea that systems are not just software, it's also just that administrative regularity. I'm guessing that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't have implemented it. I'm guessing that Pastor Daryl probably wouldn't naturally.
It still sometimes
schedule.
doesn't happen. I think that we're really consistent with our monthly staff meetings. We're really consistent with our weekly prayer times. The one-on-ones sometimes fall by the wayside depending on busyness and schedules. But I really feel it. if I don't get to check in and do a one-on-one with Pastor Darrell, we can skip a week, but after 2 weeks, it's like, we need to talk, like we need to catch up. And same for our staff, like I might not be available at our weekly one-on-one time, but we will touch base at some point together for 15 minutes that week, so.
So we actually use 2 different software, well, 3 actually. We use Planning Center for service planning. We use CCB, so Church Community Builder, as our church management software. And then we use Pushpay, which bought out Church Community Builder. And that's been huge for us because we were finding before we had that, each staff member had a different contact information or different information for congregation members. So it centralized all that communication and has saved a lot of time. And so for various reasons, we chose to do it that way. We've been really blessed by it. In any software you look at, I will just say there are things that you have to work around. There's no one perfect software. And so it's knowing what's important to you and your congregation, to your pastors, and then finding something that works really well for that. And then also I would encourage you to not change it every year because it takes a long time for the buy-in. For our congregation, it probably took 2 to 3 years to kind of get the momentum going. And a lot of them don't even realize they're using those programs, but it's all based in one of those systems. And so similarly, I do a staff meeting with our admins every Monday. I try to do what I call Operation Optimize, and that's a monthly meeting with our admins, and we go over our current systems, what's working, what's not. If we need to do any refresh on, okay, these are our policies, it's breaking down. Why is it breaking down? What do we need to adjust? I usually do some sort of admin training to keep them always learning. It's so crucial to always be learning. And then we do, because of our K through 12 private school, we also then do an all-staff meeting 3 times a year. So we do that in August, in November, and in February. And then Pastor Phil, we do leadership trainings with all of our staff members. So he will do a leadership training fairly regularly. And again, he always says all of us are leaders, and you either are a good leader or not a good leader, and it's your choice. And so he even when he teaches at chapel, he encourages our students that they are leaders. And so we're always wanting to develop our leaders and grow that.
Yeah, I come from the tech world, so I love technology. I love tools. But if it doesn't make your team better, it's not worth your time. Like, don't waste your time on it. So a few things we've done, we implemented Monday in the past year just for like workflow management when you have 7 people reporting to you and they're all working on different things. Like, I just need to go to one place, see what everyone's doing, and see where we're at. So being able to see that little box go green and say done.
Oh, it's such a
Yes, it's so rewarding.
I love that.
We also have outsourced our books and accounting over the past year, which has been very beneficial. I get very detailed reports every single month I'm able to share with our leadership team, and it literally takes 0 effort for me now, and it's worth $1,000 a month in my opinion. Wouldn't trade that for anything. And I would agree with Pushpay. I've had the opportunity to spend a couple days with their leadership team, and they are fantastic. They love you and want to serve you and don't just want your money. Like, there's a lot of companies that resource the church. It's just kind of a gimmick sometime, but I tell you what, these guys' hearts is for you. So if you want any information from them, I would highly recommend. You know, we've gone through some stuff at Bethel for the last year that have required navigating and shifting almost weekly, and we couldn't have made decisions without Pushpay and having their resources. So if you don't have a management software like CCB, I would highly recommend it. Like she said, it's got quirks. They're also working through a lot of stuff.
They are, and that is like probably one of the biggest benefits to them is they are consistently upgrading and changing. And so the things that, especially in the very beginning, were like, oh my gosh, this is so frustrating. They're really working towards improving those.
They've got a lot of cool AI stuff that's about to launch in the next few weeks. The last thing I would say, if you're not using some type of AI for all of your note keeping and meetings, start now. Google Gemini, love it. Takes all of our notes, sends it to me, sends the recap, sends the word for word. Perfect. I don't have to take notes anymore.
I'm going to say on the flip side, because we used to use the software that they use, I switched us out of it when I came on. It was too clunky. This is 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was too clunky for our team. We were not using it in the way that it needed to be, and it was expensive. So for people in the room that are from smaller churches, Planning Center People is free.
Correct.
So the part where you're putting in your person's name, address, phone number, a basic database, that is free for anybody. You cannot make a printed mailing list from that. You cannot do an email blast from that. Those are upsells that cost fees. And Planning Center charges for each of their products based on the number of people in that tier. So how many kids are you checking in? How many people are giving? How many people are you wanting to put on this mailing list? They're gonna charge you tiered wise. So if you're small, it can be a lot cheaper than some of these big platforms. And for myself and how we're functioning, I really liked the a la carte option and being able to add and drop what we needed and go up and down flex wise with the price points. And we also don't use Pushpay because they are a little bit of a premium product too. And we have Clover and we have Square. And so just different point of contact. There's multiple options. And you got to find what works for your situation.
If I can just echo what she said.
Yeah.
There is no one size fits all
Yes.
scenario out there. And there's no software system that is going to check every box. We just got done doing a database upgrade for the fellowship, and it took a year and a half. This is my second one that I've done with the fellowship, and I'm thrilled with the results. It's still a 95% product. There's still just that last little bit that kind of irks me a little bit. That's just the way it is. Find one that works for you. We've got about 10 minutes left. I would love to spend it on questions and answers. Let's talk amongst ourselves. Yes.
Good morning, and thank you for the vast wealth of knowledge. This is a faith question. I'm launching a new church this September. So I've gone from bivocational to full-time ministry and now back to bivocational because I have both a business background and theology background. The vision for the future, and when I hear you guys mentioning staff here, staff there, that's like, whoa. So far I've been the only staff at my church when I was full-time. So the vision is to have a church that has more than just the pastor being staff and having other people. I'm doing everything when I'm staff, and having more people doing things, and they're helping hugely, getting paid for it to do ministry. And where I'm going, where I sense the Lord is taking me, is the church having, let's put it this way, side hustle, restaurants, school, putting different things out there so that income can come in so we can actually get staff and pay them. I heard Jennifer talked about a little bit about schooling and the university. So the question is around, how do you go about putting these things together, creating those extra outside of the church wall to bring that income in? What does that look like?
So are these things that are operating on your campus, or you're saying elsewhere?
The church in the future to be able to have those things on the side. The church owns them, such as having a school, a university of some kind.
So we can talk after, but one thing, and we can talk to Steve Biffle too, but you have to be careful with building rentals and income streams and taxes. And so one of the main benefits about being a church and a nonprofit is not paying property tax, right? And I live in Chicago, Cook County, one of the highest property tax rates in the country. We have a it's a pretty large piece of land and a couple different buildings on it. If we had to pay property tax on our building, it would bankrupt us. I mean, we couldn't. It would change everything. And so I've worked with Steve Biffle over the years about how to have renters that we are not having to report that income as unrelated business income and not having to file a 990 and not having to pay tax. And that really narrows the kinds of businesses that you can take and how you're receiving those monies and verbiages that you're using. So it's been fine, but I have had to dance around a few things with the county before because, again, I hope you all live in friendly, nice people that are pro-churches. Cook County is like very democratic, very money. They want their money. And so they'll sniff you out, and they're going to do what they can to try to get whatever money they think they need to get from you. And so it's a delicate subject. And just another thing I'm going to mention, we do go over our finance reports with our whole congregation. We put them out on the table. We'll mention it, like one weekend a year. And there's quite a large line item for rental income. I would say out of our 1.1 million annually, it's up to not quite 200,000 of that is rental income. It's a main big thing for us. I don't want our runners to know that. And so as soon as I put those reports out on a Sunday church, I take them back to the office because that's not public information, that's inside information. But we can talk separately because that's a nuanced issue.
I just want to put a bow on that. I love your heart there, and I'm a small business owner, so maybe we can talk more. I believe that the future of church in America is more and more bivocational ministers.
So true.
Because the way just the tax system is set up, it's very difficult to operate true profit-making enterprises under the umbrella of a church.
Yeah.
However, we're seeing amazing impact in the body of Christ and in the community by having ministers who are also small business owners, right? At my local church, I'm pretty sure every
all
single
of our
one.
staff members are bivocational,
And we've
yeah.
seen unbelievable fruit
Yeah.
from having ministers of the gospel also going and finding clients, blessing clients, serving clients, being out there in the community. So I would challenge you to see the goal as being ministry in the marketplace and not just find a way to fund the ministry, right? Because the work you do in the community is ministry.
Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes. I got this question. So I heard you speaking about the communication with the lead pastors and things like that, because the lead pastor is a visionary. And sometimes it's very hard for him to communicate the vision and for you guys to get on the same page. So that's me. No, seriously, I mean, it really is. I see vision and I don't have a clue how we're getting there, but this is where we're going,
Yeah.
you know?
Sounds like you need one of us.
See, that is my wife. So, yes. So as someone that you know is like that, and I would dare say there's quite a few of us who are just, hey, how do we do a better job? What would you say that we need to do better to help get that vision communicated? So like you said, so that you guys can put feet to the vision. Because I'm horrible at it. I'm just going to tell you.
I think the clearer the vision, like Pastor Steve said last night, the clearer the vision, writing it down and making it clear. We go back to our mission statement, our statement of purpose. Does it fit within those two things? And then having someone ask questions. Okay, what does that look like in your mind? And just in a way interviewing you to go, okay, how do I draw that out, what your vision is, and make that happen? And so making it clear, making it plain is extremely helpful. Getting there, having someone that can ask questions and draw that out of you is really helpful for our pastors. Pastor Carrie she's amazing and can draw out of Pastor Phil what he's wanting. So he can say something, but then she can put it into words and help make that happen as well. So she and I collaborate a lot as far as okay, he said that, what does that mean? And how do we do that? And so, again, it's just a lot of conversation, a lot of going back and going, okay, I'm thinking this, is that the way that you want to go? Or different things like that. It's a lot of conversation. It's a lot of communication.
So you're the one asking the questions?
Yeah.
You're the
Yeah.
you're the questioner
Yeah.
as to
Yeah.
what they
Yeah.
presented.
Yep.
I think basics, like, the expression, start with the why. Why are we doing this? What's the goal?
Yeah.
Like, you can have a vision, but you do need to be able to answer some questions about the vision. What's the budget? How are we funding this? When? What's the deadline? How many people do we need for this? Why are we doing this? What is this supposed to be trying to accomplish? Like, you do need to be able to enunciate those things in a rough sense so that we can plan according to that.
We created a worksheet that if we're doing a new event, all the event coordinator is supposed to fill out, and it's the who, what, when, why questions. Who are we trying to? What is this for? What is the purpose? What's it going to take to pull this off? And does it accomplish our mission? And so it asks all those questions, partly so the department head can go, is this worth it before we put it into action? But then it also gives us a measurable to go, did we accomplish that? And if we aren't accomplishing that, what do we need to pivot and shift? Or do we need to change our whole approach? And I think the other thing is to not be afraid to change your whole approach. As we continue to grow, we have to change, and we're in the midst of growth, and we're having to change multiple different things. And so it's not holding on to the things the way they were or have always been, but then moving and growing with that.
Yeah. We have time for just one
I
more.
want to say,
Yes, please.
5-minute warning.
Of course.
We're already over time.
Everything they just said, but then also make many milestones for the vision, like and go backwards. So if you could set 4 milestones to reach this, what are they? And then it will greatly impact your way to get there.
Yeah. All right, Pastor Kevin.
I have one comment. My senior pastor, Pastor Carl Barden, used a phrase that handled communication, or at least told us the importance of it forever. Over communicate and have success, under communicate and have a mess.
Yes.
And so over
Well
communication.
said. Well said. And with that, we'll wrap up. Thank you so much. So we have 2 lunches this afternoon, and we have a lunch tomorrow. We have a lot of social time. Go find people that you want to glean from and ask questions. Let's continue these conversations. Or maybe you're in a position where you have a lot to give. Find someone you can mentor. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you, guys.